Hi, welcome back to the Make It Happen podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Moreno. So, what's been happening lately? At one of my last family get-togethers, my uncle had asked me how life was treating me. The question, while quite a casual one, gave me the impression that life happens to me. I said to him that I don't feel like life is treating me any which way. I'm in control of my life, and I feel like it has been going pretty well. This isn't me trying to give some smart aleck response, but really it is how I feel, and it just got me thinking of perspective. So hear me out. It might sound like I'm overanalyzing the question, but to go around thinking that life treats me a certain way, that would put me in the shoes of a victim. Victim to the circumstance that is life. I admit not everything is in my control. Much is not, actually. But I find for me personally, having a proactive mindset that says, hey, I don't have to take this. I don't have to get tossed around and defeated. I have a choice in everything, and I can take action to overcome whatever obstacles present themselves. That's important. I've known for a long time that our mindset determines our reality, but I feel like I'm constantly testing out how to reconfigure my mindset for different situations. We're actually all doing this all the time. We make decisions based on our values and take action according to what circumstances we are in. Not everything is within my control, I know that, and I'm actually acquiring more and more peace with that idea. Yet I think that the energy we put into the world, our outlook, is exactly what determines the circumstances that get radiated back to us. I don't know if that makes sense. I realize that spirituality is something I'm very in touch with and love consuming information on too, but I don't really talk about it as much. It's a major interest of mine, so I'm trying to talk about it a bit more. For those who listen to season 1 of the podcast, I think you'll notice that contrast with episodes in this current season. Basically, my mindset has shifted a lot with spirituality's influence, and I just consider the things that happen in life to be happening for me and not to me. And that consequently has helped make my mindset and perspective a lot brighter. And I feel happier that way. So, with that, let me introduce today's guest. Elizabeth Shelton is a fellow young female entrepreneur known for her blog full of recipes, her posts on self-worth and personal development, and most recently a podcast called Reconnection, where she shares her channelings from the Akashic Records. When I reached out to Elizabeth to come on the podcast, she kindly offered to read my records if I was interested. So, obviously, heck yes, I was. As for what the Akashic Records are, everyone explains it a bit differently, and Elizabeth goes into it during the episode, but the way I see it, it is basically the history of your soul. You can learn about past lives, challenges, and reoccurring themes that your soul has endured. I literally gave Elizabeth my name and my questions with no other information about me, and in return she recited some key aspects of my identity. I'll share in the episode what one of my questions was and the answer I received. Besides that, we also talked about how she first stepped into the health and wellness and spirituality world, her mentality when it comes to having diverse interests and how to turn them into a business. We also talk about manifestation, and for what I think is the first time on this podcast, we discuss human design a little bit. If this is a new concept to you, then hopefully it will be fun to learn a little bit about what human design is, or at least manifesting generators, which is, spoiler alert, what both of us are. I'll leave a link in the show notes to where you can look up your own human design if you're curious about that. My favorite part, though, happens around the halfway mark, and let's see if you can guess what it is. I'll tell you guys afterwards. This episode is jam-packed with really cool stuff. So, for now, let's get into this episode with Elizabeth Shelton. I want to let you in on what my supplement routine looks like right now. So, the first thing in the morning, I like to make a hot drink. Sometimes it's lemon water, but I also love my yogi teas. I'll prep that and grab a pack of my Care of supplements. Previously, I used to dig around my kitchen cabinets looking for each of my individual vitamin bottles, opening each one, gathering a little pile, possibly forgetting a vitamin. It was just such a chore. Now I can get all of the supplements I like to take conveniently in one little package. Care of makes high quality vitamins, minerals, adaptogenic herbs, probiotics, and other supplements. And all you need to do is subscribe to what you want. When you go to takecareof.com, you can create your profile, take a short quiz to assess your supplement needs, and they'll take care of the rest. It's a fully customizable subscription service that will have your supplements delivered right to your door. No more shuffling around your cabinet looking for pill bottles or having to worry about running to the store to repurchase. I love that I can just grab my Care of packet and everything I need is in there. Care of takes care of you. To try Care of, head to takecareof.com or visit the link in the show notes to get $40 off of your first order. That's takecareof.com. Well, in that case, we are just going to get straight on into it. And let me begin by saying thank you again for coming on to the Make It Happen podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
So let me have you introduce yourself to listeners. Just tell us your name and a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am Elizabeth and I'm an Akashic Records Reader and I'm also a vegan recipe developer. I kind of got into this like quite literally randomly, which we'll probably talk about more in the episode, but my really goal is to help people really step into their authenticity and their worth through stepping into their creativity and really acknowledging what it is that makes them tick, what lights them up, and really helping people access that.
I love that. So it sounds like you're very multifaceted. What would you say was sort of that gain your feet wet sort of thing that got you into or got you close to where you are now? What was your sort of gateway drug into wellness or spirituality, any of that?
Yeah, it all kind of happened. It's all pretty much mixed together. And my first experience with that was when I was like 16. I really got into like past lives, and I was like, I only talked about that. Like, if anyone knew me at that time, that's all I talked about. And people would just like roll their eyes and be like, girl, shut up. That sounds fake. And then there was other times where I started going vegetarian. So I started getting more into food. And I really had to rely on myself to make food for myself. So that's where kind of the recipe creating side started happening. And then I got into more like holistic living. So, like creating my own lotions. And at that time, it again was not really accepted. Like people at my work were like, you're weird. Like, why don't you just go buy it from a store? So it was this whole different experience. And it all just kind of happened at once. And it all just kinds of flows together. And it really like solidified when I was 18. I went through a rock bottom. Like everything that was around me just like completely fell off, and I was left with just really finding out more about myself. And through that, it was really connecting back to my creativity, and what that was creating recipes and finding what it was that I really liked. And at that time it was like writing poetry, and it always just flowed into these different avenues. And if you're familiar with human design, I'm a manifesting generator, so they're naturally multifaceted. Well, multifaceted. There you go. But so it's always been natural for me to constantly just be flowing with whatever is lighting me up at that moment. And at this moment, it is reading people's records and just really connecting with whatever's lighting me up in that moment and just really allowing myself to flow with that.
Okay, really interesting that you mentioned you're a manifesting generator. I am as well. I
Woo!
actually haven't, I know, I haven't found too many people who are familiar with human design. So I can kind of look at them and be like, I feel like maybe you're a manifesting generator too, but they don't know their birth time and whatever. So I can't just make that assumption.
Yeah.
Um, but I had read that generationally, right now, there are a lot more manifesting generators than there have ever been. It's sort of a mishmash between the generators, the real workhorses, or the baby boomers, and then other generations that have been, I guess, just soul manifestors and soul generators. Right now, we're just kind of mixing a lot more, and now this is what we are, a whole lot of or at least the youth currently, are a
Yeah.
whole lot of manifesting generators.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think I actually heard that on a podcast with Jenna Zoe talking about that.
Mm.
So it's interesting. Yeah.
How long have you known your human design, and how has that helped you sort of lean into your strengths and be aware of your maybe just the areas that you need to be more cautious of or work on a bit more?
Yeah, so I've known my human design for I think like a year now, but at first I was like really against being a manifesting generator. I really wanted to be a projector so bad. I was like,
I
that
know.
just it just seems like the cooler option. They just get to pick a niche and they just roll with it. So yeah, it was really a long time to like accept it because like it wasn't like to me it wasn't considered like special because like I don't like how they say the statistics are like 70% of the population. And at the time I was like, what? I want to be special. So, yeah, I was really just allowing myself to be okay with that. I like to do a bunch of things and that not everybody's gonna like vibe with that or like that. And also just knowing that impatience is like not a bad thing either, but just really learning how to like accept that. Do you follow Amy Allchurch on Instagram? Because she talks a lot about manifesting generators too. And her information
I do
I
not.
recommend it because her information's, like, really helped me in, like, the past month be like, "Oh, I need to have more playtime. I need to have more fun." And just even doing that's dramatically changed how I, like, interact with the world and what I'm doing that day.
Does she talk about all of the human designs or just manifesting generators?
She talks about all of them, so if anybody's anything, they can go check her out. She's really great.
That's cool. So human design has a little bit of an astrology aspect, but it's not full on astrology, which is, I think, more common. People usually know more information about their zodiac sign than they do human
Yeah.
design currently.
Yeah, I think they're both really good to I look at. They can be like helpful guidelines to see where it is that you can go or maybe like understand, oh, this is why I act that way. Like for me, I'm a double Virgo, so my sun and moon are in Virgo. So I'm very like a perfectionist, organized all the time. So just even knowing that, it can be like, oh, okay, this is why I act this way. And it can really like bring clarity to your life.
Wow. Okay. Right off the bat, when I started talking with you, I was like, she sounds so grounded and so peaceful and earthy. And now you're saying you're a double
Yeah.
Virgo. That explains it.
I'm pretty much an
What's your
all
moon sign?
the moon sign's also Virgo, and then my rising is a Scorpio.
Oh, I see. That's a nice combination there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really obsessed with that as well. I love looking into that and asking people about their signs. Sometimes people don't really know what it means, but
I know, which is shocking.
it's really easy to, well, not type people. I want to sound like I'm putting people into a box, but there's a lot of commonalities between certain signs, and you just start to notice them a lot more once you're aware.
Definitely, and plus we all have the signs, like, somewhere in our chart, so we're all bound to be
Mhm.
similar at some point.
Knowing these things, knowing a little bit of information about your astrological birth chart or your human design chart, for me personally, it gives me licensing to know what my strengths are and to know what areas, certain areas I might be insecure about or feel like I'm constantly working on. I'm sure everyone has it, some areas of your life where you feel like, man, I just can't get ahead, or why am I so afraid to speak up, or things like that. And then kind of knowing, okay, this is something prominent in my chart, and I do actively need to work on this a little bit more than someone else. I mean, I can't help but compare sometimes when other people seem stronger in certain areas than myself. How do you approach that? Do you ever compare yourself to others, and what do you do to sort of talk yourself down?
Oh, yeah, definitely I definitely did that all the time, like, even a few months ago, I was like, "But they're ahead of me in this area, but why am I not, like, there yet?" And we're all on different timelines, so just bringing it back to that and just being like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be there at that moment because something else is, like, teaching me a lesson that I'm supposed to be learning right now." And just being okay with that, and then also looking in, why am I being triggered in this area? Looking back at the childhood stuff, if it stems more from that, maybe even looking back into the ancestral line, which I did over the summer, and there was that theme of, like, comparison and, like, not being seen, so I healed that this past summer doing that, but also just being aware that we're all on such different timelines and comparing ourselves to someone else is really just not going to do anything but cause you stress and cause you more worry.
What has helped you have that mindset? I mean, besides being a Virgo, people can't really change their sign at this point, but what sort of tools do you have that help you remain focused on yourself and cultivate that sort of relationship with yourself?
Yeah, so I really go into the subconscious work, and I know that you're familiar with Lacey Phillips' work, and she really introduced me to the subconscious, and then just seeing all those triggers and how they you can look at them and through this different lens and seeing, oh, everyone's a mirror to me. What part of me is still feeling like they're not good enough, that they're not worthy, and just really taking it back and looking at those through journaling and then taking it through a meditation. And then if it's still not healed, keep going through that cycle and then adding in some movement so it can get out this like stagnant energy that's stuck in your body. And for me, that really lies in my shoulders and my neck and especially in my back. So if I am feeling that way, just moving that energy, going through the meditation, seeing where it is, pinpointing it from whatever age I was as a kid and really just reprogramming that so I can better be able to show up as myself in the world and really be able to take action steps and know where that's coming from.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge that you've ever had to face? You mentioned that around 18 you had a rock bottom. Would you mind kind of going into that?
Yeah, so when I was 18, I was following the typical path, going to college. And so I ended up going away to this school in like a small town in northern Wisconsin, where I'm from. And it ended up being the best and the worst thing that has ever happened to me. And it ended up being the worst because I ended up becoming extremely depressed, extremely anxious. I was constantly working out, barely eating. My skin was bad. There's a time I like fainted. It was like not a good area for me to be in. I pretty much lost all my friends. I didn't have a job. Not really a lot of like human contact going on besides like in classes. So it was like this really tumultuous time of being completely alone with myself and just really being on this like solo retreat with myself that I didn't sign up for. And so I really was forced to be alone for the first time ever in my life, and it was very painful. I had to acknowledge so many things. So many things were coming up. There are times where I would just like cry for no reason, but I mean there was a reason. I was like releasing all this internal baggage, storm energy that was no longer aligning with me. And so I ended up moving home, and then that's pretty much what kicked off like the spiritual journey that kind of talked about briefly in the beginning of the episode.
When you look back on these events in your life, how do you approach mistakes you've made? Because, especially with the expanded work, which we should probably talk about that a little bit, what first attracted you to Lacey Phillips' work, which is to be magnetic? What first attracted you to that, and how has that been going for you? I'm really curious to hear about that because I can't say I've been too big on the manifesting side, but I feel like it's helped my self worth a whole lot. How about you?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It like for me, when I first got into it, when I first heard it, I think I heard her on like Your Own Magic podcast, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I really want to manifest like this awesome career, this money, blah blah blah, etc." And I was really going at it from like this egoic perspective, and really what it ended up making me do was look at everything and just really build up my self-worth to the point where now I'm very comfortable where I am. And I mean, there's obviously still work to be done. That's like a lifelong process, but yeah, it's like you said, it's pretty much built up my self-worth. The manifestation thing's slowly coming in, but it's been a process of unraveling all the shadow, all the low self-worth that's just been riddled in my body for how many years.
Okay, I really would like you to now talk about being an Akashic Records reader, what that is, and how you got into that. I know you said that you've always, for a long time, been really into past lives, but I mean, how does one become an Akashic Records reader? Do you just wake up one day or do you take a course? Like, how did this
I
happen?
mean, yeah, it kind of happened one day for me. I got a book from the library and there's like this paper in it. So when I sat down to read it, all of a sudden it fell on my lap and it was the Pathway Prayer, which, if you don't know, is how you access the records like traditionally. And you say that and then you're into it. So it was really quite random. And then that same day, there was a podcast that came out with another Akashic Records reader on it. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. I should probably pay attention to this. So I ended up getting Linda Howe's book, who I wouldn't say she's the founder of it, but she kind of made it more known to the wide public. I read a little bit of it and then I was like, okay, I'm going to try this myself. And when I first went in, I just nothing really happened, but I saw like energy patterns. And then I was like nervously asked my sister, I was like, can I read you? And she's like, what? But I just did it. And then I ended up asking other coworkers and friends. And then I ended up asking a bunch of random people to read the records. And it just really just happened kismetly and just randomly over time. And if you don't know what the records are, it's basically, for me, I see them as just like this energy being that knows everything about you, like your past lives. It knows what your highest self is, like your lowest self, what your blocks are, etc. And it can really provide clarity, guidance to really help you move throughout your life and take the next steps that you need to get to there.
So when someone says records, I think of sort of these predetermined, documents or this like a giant book of you sort of thing. But are the Akashic records a little bit more like spirit guides, would you say?
Yeah, so in like traditional sense, or like what other people on the internet like say, if you look it up, they're gonna be like, it's the book of everyone and how this happens. But for me, it's more of like it just feels like spirit guides. I'm just like connecting with higher source energy instead of like this is what's supposed to happen. Cause like for me, I don't believe in like everything's determined or determinism. I believe that we do have some things that are meant to happen, but we do have that free will on how you get there. And I think these are just a amazing tool that you can use and access to help you either get there faster or just have more clarity.
So do you feel like this is something that anyone can access? I know you mentioned that you first got into it through the pathway prayer, but I mean, I think everyone would be a lot more aware of the actions that they take and their intentions and the way they converse with other people if we were connected. So, what do you think is something that sort of prevents, the average person from being in touch that way?
Well, they might think it's like too woo woo for them, or like maybe it's just for certain people. But I'm here to tell you, I did not grow up psychic. And like, I access them and I'm able to connect with them. So anybody could really do it if you're feeling called to it, or you're feeling called to really like move more into your intuition or open yourself up to these abilities. It can be a really great step, and you can just learn from it by just going to your library and picking up Linda Howe's book, like How to Read the Akashic Records, if you're feeling that like pang of excitement to go do it.
I do really want to say I mentioned it in the email prior, but I really like the reading that you gave me. It was really interesting. I've never asked someone about my past lives, but the information you gave me, which okay, for everyone listening, um, I'll happily I'll happily mention that one of the questions I had asked was what roles have I played in my past lives? And I was told the giver, the overextender, the people pleaser, easily being taken advantage of and viewed as weak. Additionally, you said that there was an image of a 40-year-old woman with dark brown hair tied into a low bun, with a dark blue bonnet, a white dress, and she was in Ireland in the countryside in the early 1700s, also sort of in the state of having been taken advantage of. And I just like my heart felt that when I was just reading these things. Currently, I don't want to say I'm always in that situation, but I feel like I kind of end up in that situation more often than I'd like. So it's something I'm very much trying to be conscious of. And it makes me feel a little bit cold. Since I know this, I feel like I have to put up these walls now so that I don't overextend myself. I don't know what to say. It's a tricky thing, I guess, to kind of know what your weak points are, but then trying to integrate them and find that balance now.
Yeah, definitely. You can also like create more boundaries in having that information and just take action on what needs to be done.
So when you channel this information, how does it feel as it's coming into you? Do you get like memories or visions? What's it look like for you when you're getting this information from someone else for a reading?
Yeah, so for me, I use automatic writing as it because my main gifts are seeing, hearing, and feeling. So when I'm going through it, it's just easier to write it all down because there's so much information coming at once. And for every reading, it looks very different. So for one person, they could be having a lot of emotion coming up, and I'm just going to feel it in different areas in my body. And then in other readings or in different segments of the readings or different questions, I will have like images like pop up, and then I'll just hear voices of like what's being said.
With the rise of non toxic products in the beauty and skincare industry, it's hard to find what's worth trying. There's one brand that I've been using for over a year now that I have got to tell you guys about. That is FRE Skincare. Their company started with the launch of a specially formulated sunscreen for active lifestyles that won't leave you greasy or break you out. But they've since expanded to a wide range of products from tinted moisturizers to facial cleansers and oils, a line of body products, and most notably their FRE 123 set, which is the perfect place to start if you're new to their products. I'd also recommend picking up their Detox Me face mask. It has cleansing microbeads made from jojoba oil that are perfect for a light exfoliation without stripping your skin. It also leaves my face feeling so fresh and supple after using it. I love it. FRE's team of dermatological scientists have formulated each product with the rejuvenating benefits of argan oil to hydrate, protect, and exfoliate your skin and leave you glowing or your money back. Plus, as part of their give back mission, for every skincare set that they sell, they plant an argan tree to help replenish the endangered argan forest in Morocco and support the women who harvest the argan oil. To get the glowy skin you've been seeking and a risk-free trial of their famous FRE 123 set, head to freskincare.com/melaniem and use the code melaniem at checkout for a wicked discount. That's freskincare.com/melaniem. So I've been to your website a couple times and I think it's so aesthetically beautiful. I know how difficult it is to build a website personally,
Mhm.
so I have to compliment that. It's just a really fun website to hang around at. I also really like just the variety, and I think it's really cool that you're integrating not just having it being a food website or just having it be a spirituality sort of website. I guess it's like a lifestyle site, but in a modern way. It's not the, oh, look what I'm wearing kind of lifestyle website.
Well, thank you for saying that because it literally has taken me so long to finally find a style for my website that I actually enjoy. So, thank you for saying that. And yeah, but I tried just being like a food blog for a long time, but then like something felt like it was missing. And so I ended up in my like recipes, I ended up like having a spiritual pit stop. And so I just like talk about like spiritual concepts in that little pit stop part. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just like move into something else and bring more of a different section to it. And I did that like a few months ago and happy with how it turned out. So yeah, it's just important to have all of these things because like niching down, it's not me. I'm not supposed to fit in this box. I'm not supposed to be this one multifaceted person. One person that's only doing this one thing. I'm supposed to be this multifaceted person who's doing all these different things and just flowing with what goes with me. And like if you like recipes, great, you could just focus on that. And if you want more of the like the spiritual stuff, that's awesome too because there's a whole different section for that. And if you like them both, well, you hit the jackpot.
Do you work on Under the Willow Tree full time? Is that your full time business?
Yeah, I'm moving into that as being my full-time business. About a month ago, I took the leap of faith and I quit my job. So I am really focusing on doing that and offering readings to people and just building it up even more.
That's so wild. Wow.
Yeah, it is scary.
Yeah, but I'm really proud of you, and I think that it sounds amazing. Again, I feel like your offerings are just so diverse, but also so very connected. So it's offering so much to people. What do you feel is something that you, in terms of the offerings that you have, what's something that you'd like to grow?
Hmm. Yeah, I was actually thinking about this today. I was thinking about going in the records and being like, what else can I bring to the table? So right now I'm definitely in the pre-production stage of like thinking of ideas, and I really want to get people to really reconnect with themselves more. So there might be a course in the works probably in a few months that is going to be dedicated to that. That's just going to be channeled messages and teachings from the records so that people can do that. So they have more of a access to me, access to a space where they can just take the lessons in and really be their own guide, be their own guru to really reconnect with themselves on such a deeper level instead of just the I don't know, I don't know, the spiritual books, like, I've read when I was especially starting my first, like, little toe in the journey, they were full of a lot of fluff, and they were full of good info that I needed at the time, but I think I wanna provide people with stuff that's gonna be more of substance, more of things that they can take into their life, and that they're not gonna be, like, wanna, like, throw out in, like, 2 days after using them. I want something that's gonna be lifelong with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. It makes so much sense. I think for a long time, I don't know. I hesitate to say a long time because sometimes I'll make statements like that, like, "Oh, something's just barely hitting, consumers, or we're just becoming aware of this." But maybe it's just me. I cannot speak for everyone, and I haven't been in existence forever. But I feel that previously there was a lot of spiritual literature out there that would be a little one-dimensional, or even affirmations. Lacey Phillips talks about that too, like just speaking in affirmations, or just rubbing your crystals in your hands, or very one-sided things. Great. It's great to have tools, but I think it's even better when you can, be put in a situation and then kind of think to yourself, okay, what's this teaching me, or what can I do here to find peace of some sort, instead of having to wait until later so that you can go take a bath, or wait until later so that you can go, like being able to take care of yourself, which is essentially what you're saying, empowering people to take care of themselves. I think that's so important.
Mm, definitely, yeah. Those old spiritual books, like, I still have some of them, and I'm just like, "Oh, man." I reread them, like, not that long ago, and I was like, it was good for me at the time, and I think there's a place for them, especially if you're just stepping your, like, toe in the water, like I said, but, yeah, just having more of a substance, more of a something that you can grab towards and actually use the information instead of being like, "Remove all of your thoughts." Like, that I don't know about you, but that does not help me. I have a lot of thoughts in my brain, and I definitely need more grounding tools for that.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I first started meditating, and I would be like, why do I still have thoughts? Everyone says I'm supposed to clear my head, but that doesn't really happen.
No, and plus we're these multidimensional beings. We have so many things to us, and I don't know if you believe in like reincarnation and stuff like that, but we have all these different lifetimes and that all influence us and affect us. And I think that's going to be more the forefront of this 2020, more talking about like ancestral healing and healing the lineage and how that affects everyone, and even just healing past lives. And that's going to be more of the forefront because we aren't just like this static figure in one space at like a time. We have all these different things that are influencing us and influencing our behaviors.
How do you talk to people, let's say in your real life, in your circle, when you have all this information, you have certain beliefs, and it also sounds to me like you're in it to do the work, to do the self work. And a lot of people in current day, how else to put it? Um, like to have an easy answer. I mean, I get it. I wish I could have an easy answer too, but I think that's
Mhm.
I think that's been the mindset for a while. And if you try and tell someone like, well, this breakup that you had, it really hurts, but it gives you an opportunity to reflect on yourself, and they're just going to look at you like, why are you being an asshole?
Uh,
Like, do you feel my pain? No one wants to do that work. So, I mean, not at first. I think it kind of takes a lot to get someone to that point. So, I guess in essence, what I'm asking is, what are your relationships like, and how do you navigate them if someone's maybe not really on the same level as you in that way? Not level in a,
yeah.
you know, better than someone else, just, meeting you at where you're at.
Yeah, and just recognizing that everyone's on their own different path, everyone's on their own journey. Like, for instance, my dad, he's super religious. He loves like the Christ consciousness, etc. And for a long time, I kind of resented him for that, but it was really just looking at myself and be like, okay, we're on completely different paths. We're on different timelines of where we're supposed to be going, what we're supposed to be thinking and doing about. And that goes with everyone, and that goes into your life and what you're meeting them with, and just meeting them where they're at and not meeting them where you want them to be, where you expect them to be, and just being compassionate to where that is, because yeah, you're on this different level. You might be high vibing it out and just rocking it out and being like, I'm a spiritual queen over here, and they just might not be at that level, and that's totally okay. And just meeting them where they're at, and you can offer them guidance, you can offer them maybe your opinion, and they might not accept it, they might not understand it, they might brush it off, but just learning that's okay, that's not what they need at this time, and they have to figure that out on their own.
That's true. I feel like I have a tendency to, well, not, I think I'm my harshest critic, and I've noticed that sometimes the things that, if I notice something in another person and I feel a little critical, and I ask myself, why am I even concerned about this? And I realize immediately that it's something that bothers me about me, and I'm just picking it out in the other person. It becomes this reflection game.
Mm.
I mean, I can't say the same for everyone else, but at least for myself, I've noticed that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's definitely a factor too. Like looking at seeing, oh, why are they triggering this in me? And just that in itself, asking that question, having that awareness of that is so powerful and so impactful on how you're reacting and how you're working with the world.
So, I'd also like to ask, what is your definition of success? For success personally, and also success in terms of, your business.
Yeah, so success for me is like really connecting with others, making an impact, being able to serve people in the best way that I can, and also having freedom to express myself, freedom to be creative and be financially free at one day, like knock on wood, let's hope. We're getting there, but yeah, so just having that freedom and connection, those are the freedom, connection, and service. Those are the three like main pillars that are at the forefront of why I do what I do.
Freedom, connection, and service. Wow. So, when you're going to start something new, or you're going to approach a relationship or an opportunity, anything, do you ask yourself if it checks off one of those boxes for you?
I think subconsciously I do. Consciously, I like give it a few days to just like sink in. How do I want to respond to this? And yeah, usually they do. It's it's nice to have those like values to come back to and to look at and be like, okay, am I reacting to this or wanting to do this because of X, Y, and Z, or am I wanting to do this because it relates to those values, because it aligns with me in that way? So having those as like a guideline is super helpful.
I mean, it's nice to seek out opportunities that can provide those, but what are ways that you try and provide that for yourself? Like, what's your sort of go to, or something that you can kind of do daily that satisfies each of those for you personally?
Yeah, so definitely movement and getting into my body, and that's really just connecting with myself through that, and that's been a huge practice in my life because I started yoga as like a game, I guess, with myself. I was like, we're just going to do yoga for 30 days, see it, how I feel after it. Let's try to heal ourselves. And I ended up like 30 days was done and I was like, "Oh my god, I need to do this every single day," because my body was like craving it because it helps release so much stuff, at least for me. So movement is a big thing and really connecting with myself and allowing myself to have that moment of stillness, not only like in my brain, but like just have that fluid like movement. And then, yeah, just really grounding myself and going outside. I am a very earthy person, so I like being outside as much as I can, even when it's like really cold outside, and just allowing myself to just do what it is that I would like to do if I have that opportunity to do so or that little window of time.
What is grounding like for you? As especially going outside to get connected. What's that feel like?
Yeah, so I usually just go on walks or like go forest bathing. I don't know if you know what that term is. I didn't know what it was until I read this like Japanese book, but you basically just go into like the woods or any part of nature for like an hour or more, and by the time you come out of it, you just feel more relaxed and more serene. And for me, I sometimes will take my dog out. Maybe I'll go there or I'll do like a root chakra meditation or yoga, or really just like really connect with the earth as much as I can, like all the senses, like okay, not all the senses. We're not going to like lick a tree or anything, but like just feeling the tree or like just having the walking around and stuff. It's just really nice and peaceful and allowing myself to just absorb it as much as I can.
That sounds beautiful. Where do you live? I do not have a forest around me to go bathe in.
Yeah, I live in southeastern Wisconsin, so I have like the lakes by me and I have all the forests. So it's very pretty.
Recently, I've been reading on it's kind of something that's growing an interest in me. For a long time, I was avid about sunscreen and avoiding the sun and, covering myself. I'd wear big hats
Mhm.
and long sleeves. I was just avoiding the sun 100%. And it's growing on me the importance of having a little bit of sun. I mean, that and also kind of getting diagnosed with extremely low vitamin D levels.
Oh.
Like, yeah, at my last doctor's appointment, you can see the chart of like the past 3 years, and it's just gone down so much.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, it's kind of dangerously low. So I'm like, okay, I need to get over this fear of the sun and get a little bit of sun at least daily. Yeah, that's been so no forest around here, but
Yeah.
sun has been monumental. But
I'm really glad you brought that up though. Because I started like sunbathing, I want to say a year ago, like even in the winter, I'd like strap on my coat and just sit outside for an hour. Like my face was super tan, my body was like super pale. But anyways, it really shifted so much because like if you are you familiar with like blue light or anything like that?
yes, I am. I mean, not in depth, but so so.
Okay, yeah. So when you like watch the sunrise in the morning, you're releasing your cortisol levels, so you have more energy in your day. And just even having like 10 minutes or 15 minutes of just being in the sun can like shift your mood, your energies. It can help like balance your hormones if you do it like consistently. So, yeah, sunbathing is super important. And even like being aware of like the sunscreens and not using like toxic ones, like because there's a lot of ingredients in those that aren't that great for you either. So switching to more of like a natural one can be really helpful too. But yeah, the sun is really important, and people are, I think, they're just waking up to that. So yeah, I recommend that.
It's confusing. I mean, if you go online to try and find an answer, there's, the people for something and the people against something. And for the sun, anytime you try and look up like how to heal your heal your acne or get better skin or get rid of lines or whatever, everyone's like, avoid the sun, wear sunscreen. That's the number one thing you see.
Yeah.
Oh. sometimes there are, I mean, everything has its pros and cons,
Definitely.
but I heard something on, I think it was on an episode of Supported. I can't remember where I heard it, but it was it was saying that the sun is the thing that gives every, you know, plant and the the earth, it gives everything life. It gives us life too. So why are we trying so hard to hide from it and shield ourselves from getting the sun's rays? It can be regenerative, just like it can help a plant grow. It can also help us with whatever ails us, basically.
Definitely, yeah. It it's just like so it feels good too, like just sitting out in the sun even for like 30 minutes a day. I mean, obviously there's balance to it. You don't want to be like outside for like 7 hours a day just baking in like the heat because that's probably not healthy too, but just having like a balance and allowing yourself to be like enjoying it because it is nice. It does feel good. And for me, it has helped with my skin issues. Like in the summer, my skin is glowing compared to the winter where I don't get as much vitamin D, so I have to like supplement. But yeah, I don't know. The sun is really important. And I think that's just going to be a big thing for people in coming years.
I love looking into it's so cool to be able to say the sun is a healer or just going outside and standing on the ground that's healing. It's so cool to look at these holistic remedies instead of, you know, the long list of supplements or, like we don't need anything extravagant. And for a while I thought that was the only way to seek out to buy things, to get products, but there's so much that's already just here free on the earth, and I probably sound like um, such a funny person. I don't even know how I sound. Um, but I think about that sometimes. I'll just stare off into the sky and be like, "Oh, there's so much on this earth. It's so it's so beautiful how much there is."
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Yeah, I agree completely. We can be in the hippie party together.
Um
It just offers so much.
So if I think about these things, it just makes me, I don't know, I'll get these fantasies of just kind of like, all right, forget technology, forget everything, forget jobs. I'm just gonna like pack up and go go live out, you know, on some plane or I don't know. I just like, I mean, that would be kind of difficult. I am used to a lot of amenities and air conditioning, but I guess I have a deeper desire to connect with nature than I ever realized before. It's just grown over the years. If you asked me when I was younger, I hated going outside. Or I'd go outside, but I mean, like when I was a little kid, yes, I'd go out and play outside, but as a teenager and for quite a bit of my young adult life, I did not like going outside. And now, if given the choice, that's where I want to be.
Yeah, definitely. The I just like provide so much and like last year I really got into herbalism. I had like a phase of going through that and so I was really learning about um like different herbs and how they impact your body and like making tinctures and doing all the things. And I must have had like a past life as a herbalist or something because this like past summer I gardened like a few different like flowers and stuff and made the tinctures and it just felt so at home. So maybe in the future I'm just gonna be like living in the forest with you. We'll have a little commune or something.
Wow. Wow, that sounds incredible. How were so you were making your own tinctures? How'd those go?
They went really well. I did like a digestive tincture because that was part of like my healing journey. So I made a digestive tincture out of fennel seed. What else was in there? It was like calendula and something else. But yeah, it worked really well. It definitely goes through you and it tasted pretty decent. So usually I'm a little afraid of them because they would be probably tasting very earthy and more like mud, but it didn't, which is lucky.
I've recently been taking um there's a tincture called Soul Purpose from Alexis Smart Flower Remedy. So it's all flower based. And I had read a lot of reviews prior to getting it. I was a little iffy because I feel like, well, I don't know if this is gonna work and it's kind of pricey. It felt like one of those really, really extra sort of supplements.
Yeah.
But I feel like it does help me on a daily basis. When taken consistently, I feel like it kind of helps me have more direction. And that's interesting. So,
Yeah.
again, so much that exists in nature that we dismiss, flowers being one of them. They're not just things that look pretty, they can be helpful for us too.
Definitely.
I also thought it was really interesting that you said that you had a phase of just being into herbalism. And again, that's such a manifesting generator thing to
I
have
know.
to have these little spurts. I go through it all the time too. Tell me how it feels for you because I have an idea spark and I can't just read about it or hear someone else talk about it. I need to do it myself. So
Yeah.
I'll buy all the equipment or I'll sign up for the class, whatever it is. I need to do it.
Yes, I can totally relate. I like go deep in. I'm just like, okay, where's all the free course that I can do? How can I learn about this as much as I can? And yeah, I can totally relate to that. You just get that like energy. You're just like, "Ooh, I need to go." Like for like a good few months, I thought I was going to be a herbalist, and then and then it like faded away, and I was like, "Okay, no, no, thanks."
How do you know what's here to stay? What's going to be lasting then? Because, these, when you get those sparks, they're just so powerful. And like you said, you thought that was going to be your path. But how do you know what's actually the thing? I guess, I mean, I know we can have multiple things. It's kind of that goal system sort of drilling into you where you need to have the one career.
Yeah.
So I know we can have multiple things, but still, what's your way of knowing if something's worth keeping in your life or letting go of?
Yeah, for me, I just keep coming back to whatever it is that is like sparking my interest. Like, for instance, I also had a phase where I like was playing guitar and then I just stopped randomly and I just haven't really gone back to it. So that was another one. I just usually don't really come back to it, or if I do, it's just sparingly and it's not as like full throttle as before.
Have you ever dealt with anxiety or do you experience stress, whether that be regularly or occasionally?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. When I was going through that rock bottom and that I had pretty bad anxiety for like 2 years. Like it was to the point like if I had to go anywhere I might have like cried. So, yeah, I've had to deal with it and like learn tools and I've yeah, like the tools through yoga and doing like Lacey's work, etc. And like learning where it stems from, all of that has really helped too. And the stress part, I think that's always gonna be a part of it, but just having that time for myself to actually relax and just be like, you don't have to be on the move all the time. You don't have to be trying to be productive all the time and just giving yourself that allowance to just be and just to be in stillness because that is the message that has been coming up for me a lot lately is just to be still, to be okay with what's happening right now and just giving myself that time to have play, have fun, and not be so worried about the outcome at all times.
I feel like that comes up a lot for me too. The encouragement to take a breath and be present, be still. I definitely have a lot of guilt around not doing things.
Mm. Yeah, me too. I grew up with a mom who was always doing something. Like even if she was sick, she would be like cleaning the house nonstop. Like there would never be like a break. So I definitely picked that up. So I just definitely like programming that and just allowing myself to have that moment of pause because that's where you're going to get some clarity too. Like, yeah, it's good to be constantly doing something, but having that pause, that's where you can also just have that time to reflect and think about what does your next step want to look like, which can be hard to actually do.
When you feel the stress of all these outside triggers, how do you then approach managing your time or setting boundaries for what's important to you and also knowing what it is that you need to maybe attend to for the outside world.
Yeah, so for me, it's really easy for me to take like a lot of input from what everyone else is doing or seeing what everyone else is doing, signing up for X, Y, and Z, and then doing that in my own like life and not really getting the results I want. It's because I was like taking too much information from the outside world. So really setting a boundary on how much I'm taking in, whether that be through social media or podcasts. Because when I do take in too much information, I can get really drained really quickly, or I'm just not going to feel as excited, or it might be like the comparison game might start happening. So, just really setting those like firm boundaries with that has been really impactful in my life in the past few months. So, doing that has been, yeah, really powerful.
I definitely know what the information overload sort of feels like, especially when you get the spark to go research something and then it's hours and hours of your eyes just reading this one set of content. And then you're like, okay, so what do I do now?
Right.
um, if you'd be game to, I'd really like to have you walk through your day, just sort of what a day in the life of Elizabeth is like.
Yeah, so I usually wake up like either around 6:30 or 7, and then my days aren't really consistent. I try to switch it up, and but most days include like yoga, meditation. I'll take my dogs on a walk, and then working on my business, responding to emails, doing whatever promotional things need to be done that day. And then at night, I have like an hour or two for myself to just like zone out, do whatever the hell I want to do, which might be dancing one night, it might be um, watching TV, it might be reading a book. Yeah, so it just looks different every day. I try to not be consistent with it on certain things, just like my routines, because if I have a routine, I feel stuck in it. So I like to just switch it up and allowing myself that time to just do whatever feels good in that moment and really just listening to my intuition. So it changes every single day.
That's fascinating. I have, for a very long time, been a fan of like a morning routine and a night routine. But I mean, sometimes there's also routines around, stuff that happens in the middle of the day. But do you feel comfort, or not comfort, but I think that's why people like routines for the comfort aspect. So, how is it that you can constantly keep changing? Does that feel comfortable to you, or is that exciting to do? Or do you still have to kind of like give yourself that little push each day to try something different?
Um, it's really just listening to the intuitive hit that I get, and there is some things that are like my non-negotiable. So like yoga or meditation, like those things are going to be a constant in my life. But the other things of like, what is it that I want to do today is going to be different, and just really listening to that. And there, I'm someone who gets really like stuck in a. If I'm in a routine, I'm just going to stick to it because that's comfortable for me. It's my comfort zone, and I've really had to push myself out of it like these past few months and just be like, we need to try something new because what I've been doing, it hasn't been working. It hasn't been giving me what I've wanted. So just trying to listen to whatever it is that's happening in me and just listen to that instead of listening to the outsiders' opinions and outsiders' thoughts on what I should be doing or what I should be doing this, which is hard because you want to fit in, you want to do these things, but just really listening to myself has been a really important lesson.
And you feel that listening to yourself also lets you know when you've given something a fair shot. Like if you've spent enough time on something and you can say, without feeling the pressure to, commit more or try and work on this a little more, do you feel intuitively when it's a good time to take a break or when it's a good time to let go of something?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it shows up as like this feeling, as like an itch that I need to like change or like I feel antsy about something. So that's when I know it's like time to be like, okay, we need to have a break. We need to do something else at this time.
Earlier, I asked you what your biggest challenge was, and now I'd like to know what you consider to be your biggest accomplishment.
My biggest accomplishment would definitely being who I am today, because if I didn't have any of those things, I'd probably be like a finance person or something in the finance world. So, yeah, my biggest accomplishment is just being able to like look in the mirror and be like, I love myself. I love the person that I am becoming, the person that I am, and just really just honoring myself in that way and just honoring the flow, honoring the surrender of life. And as woo woo as that sounds, um, it's just been so powerful for me, that deep healing and that deep trust in myself and that love I've cultivated for myself over the years, because there was a time where I couldn't even like look at myself. I hated it. But so yeah, just cultivating that love, cultivating that compassion.
That's beautiful. That's the best answer. I mean, not that, and like anyone can give whatever answer they want, but I really like that answer because at the end of the day, it's always just all you have is you and being proud of the person you are today. ah, just, it's not, not a thing that you did or graduating this or that. It's just you. I love that. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I like that so much. I'm going to go into some closing questions now. The first thing that I've got is what are three things that make you feel like your best self? And these can be routines or they can be products or just anything that brings you joy.
The first one's definitely tea. I have like 5 things of it a day. It's so good, and I just love it. And then the second would definitely be movement, because moving in my body is so, it's just definitely one of the biggest healers in my life. So definitely moving, whether it's dancing, whether it's yoga, whether it's taking my dog on a walk, whatever that is, just allowing my body to move and move freely. And then the third thing, probably just like, I guess, connection with people around me, the people that are closest with me, like my pets, my family, and then my like friends I see.
That's lovely. What's your favorite tea?
Right now, it's definitely um, green tea.
What is the best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you?
The first thing that came to my mind was in the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, in the quote where he said, depression is thinking solely of the past and anxiety is thinking of the future. And when I heard that, I was like, mind blown. I was like, this just clarified so many things for me.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that and that's true. I mean, if those are your constant, I mean, hopefully they're not your constant states, but I have felt previously like those are my constant states. So like then there's no rest. You're oh, I yeah, that's groundbreaking.
Right.
What's a book, a podcast, a movie, or any sort of resource that you would recommend to listeners that has inspired you?
The first thing that popped into my head was the book Daughter of the Forest. It's about this like young girl that has to save her family from like this thing, and she's like a herbalist. She's just rocking it and killing it. It's it's just a nice empowering book, because a lot of fiction book, like if you read a lot, it's a lot of it is like low vibe people and it can kind of be annoying, but this book is definitely different. If you're like ready to be empowered and be like, that's a cute ass love story, I recommend that one.
Wow. What a great suggestion. Okay. What is a food that makes you excited right now?
I'm obsessed with hash browns. I go through phases with food too, and it's hash browns.
Wow. That's so specific, but I love it. So if you could have dinner with one person who's living or dead, who would it be?
Hmm. Well, I gotta think about that one. Probably Tyler Joseph from 21 Pilots. He just he seems like a fun dude.
What's one thing that people might not expect that you'd be into?
Hmm. Maybe country music. I don't know. Maybe do I look like a country person? Whenever I play it, people just go, "What are you listening to?" But I don't know. I enjoy it.
I like that. All right. So, what's next for you?
Hmm. What's next for me? 2020 is definitely going to be about stepping into my power and really just like owning my truth and helping as much people as I can. That's my goal for sure.
I love it. And now, in case, people haven't been paying attention, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yes, so I do have a podcast called Reconnection where you can find wherever podcasts are found. And it's really the goal is to help people step into their authenticity and worth. And my website is underthewillowtree.co. And then I'm most active on Instagram, which is at a willow soul. So you can find me at those places.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, for chatting with me today. Thank you for sharing your insight and all about what you do and all about what inspires you. I think this will be very expanding for everyone.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
In some ways, I feel like Elizabeth and I were cut from the same cloth. The way she gets lit up with different ideas and has to explore those is exactly the way I am. There was a point where she said she was low-key considering becoming an herbalist. I resonate with that. I can't even name how many passions I thought I wanted to take front and center or just turn into a big career. That happened when I got into yoga and considered doing a yoga teacher training, which I might still do someday. It happened when I started blogging and I thought I would just become this full-time blogger. And I mean, I like writing still, but I don't want to put all my time into it necessarily. Other paths that I've considered are being a jewelry maker, a baker, interior designer, workforce consultant, psychologist, and plenty more. Let me just clarify that I'm not saying I can't do these things. Rather, I just don't want to. Or not right now, at least. They are areas I hold a degree of interest, but I know I do not desire to spend my days doing any one of these things solely. That's where the beauty of being flexible and incorporating several passions comes in, like Elizabeth. Anyway, that wasn't my favorite part though. My favorite part was when we started discussing grounding techniques and ways to unwind. She mentioned that she enjoys earthing and forest bathing. I'm a little jealous that I don't even know what forest bathing could feel like, so that is now on my bucket list. I must do that. We also spent a while talking about heliotherapy or sun therapy. I've mentioned it on Instagram a time or two that spending time in the sun and outdoors has been life-changing for me. It's a bit dreadful during the summers because the sun's rays are a little too intense here in SoCal, but ever since this past fall, I have made it a habit to spend at least a bit of time outdoors. I like to take my breakfast or lunch with me and sit on my patio, soaking up the sun and fresh air. If it's not too cold, I'll take off my layers so that the sun can actually hit my skin. Side note, we actually have vitamin D receptors all over our body, so it doesn't have to be our face that's getting all the sun exposure. We can actually absorb it from our arms, legs, back, anywhere. I highly recommend it if you have not tried this. It's definitely a mood booster too. If anything stood out to you in this episode, please drop me a line on Instagram or Facebook and let me know what that was. Also, subscribe if you have not already done that. That way, new episodes will show up directly in your feed. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, leave a rating and review on iTunes. I know, it's a drag to log in and everything, but really, it only takes a few minutes and it would mean a lot to me to help the show grow. So, yeah, thank you very much for being here and listening to this episode. I will see you guys next week. Bye.